politics. Here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report, I'm Amy Goodman. As the Cancun climate talks headed toward a conclusion Friday, civil society groups protested against what they said was a flawed UN process. The umbrella group Grassroots Solutions for Climate Justice blasted the forum for excluding the voices of indigenous peoples left vulnerable to the effects of climate change. As the talks wrapped up inside the conference rooms of Cancun's luxurious Moon Palace resort, civil society groups protested the process and found themselves increasingly iced out. John Hamiton filed this report.
As UN talks in Cancun neared their conclusion on Friday, climate justice activist Diana Pei Wu approached an entryway to the COP16 conference. A security guard scanned a barcode on her credentials.
¿Por qué? What's going on? Really? So today, when I walked in the door, as I do every morning, they scanned the badge and it turned red and it flashed and it made this beeping noise, and then he kept scanning. He was like, "What's wrong with the badge?" And I don't know what's wrong with the badge. So we're gonna go over here to security. They're like, "Oh, we don't know what's wrong with it. They're just gonna go and replace it." So hopefully they'll just replace it.
Oh, okay. It says not registered.
It says not registered?
Yes.
It says not registered. That's really strange.
Diana Pei Wu had been cut off from access to climate talks because of her association with a peaceful protest held at the event earlier in the week. Her colleague, Ann Peterman of the Global Justice Ecology Project, was given the explanation from a UN official.
So when I talked to Warren on the phone, Warren Wetford, the NGO liaison, he said, yes, we reviewed the footage and decided that she was part of the protest, even though what she was in fact doing was filming the protest.
We know that these are very political decisions, and so the idea that this is all, that it's wrong to chant, that it's wrong to walk together en masse, seems to me shutting down of free speech and the democratic processes which the UN is supposed to represent.
The UN is silencing dissent.
Están silenciando los que no están de acuerdo.
The UN is silencing indigenous peoples.
The frustration felt by NGOs over the UN's clampdown led to a series of protests throughout the final hours of climate talks. Ann Peterman led an afternoon demonstration at the foot of the stairs used by climate delegates.
Respect indigenous rights.
Patrick Rainsborough is with the grassroots organizing group, the Smart Meme Project.
What we just saw here inside the Moon Palace was over a dozen members of civil society who'd become so frustrated with the systematic silencing of their voices that they decided to engage in symbolic civil disobedience and placing themselves directly on the stairs, coming down from the plenary. They put gags over their mouth, gags that read UNFCCC, and they held signs representing a lot of the constituencies, a lot of the issues that are being censored in these talks. So I think they were using their bodies in a final last-ditch effort to show the censorship and silencing that's happening inside these talks.
Long live international solidarity! Long live international solidarity!
2,331, 2,332, 2,333.
As evening set in and climate talks neared completion during a final plenary, a delegation of youth activists held a vigil outside the session. They counted upwards toward the number 21,000.
Every one of these numbers represents a death by climate change that has occurred just this year. Since last COP to now, there has been approximately 21,000 deaths. Each of these persons has a story. We are here asking for justice for these people and to end the suffering and ask purely for our survival.
2,425! 2,425! 2,426!
When the demonstrators continued their vigil past the time allotted to them, UN guards moved in and dragged them towards a waiting bus. The protesters linked arms and the scene quickly became chaotic. As they wrestled activists onto buses, UN guards also seized press credentials from the necks of journalists and detained a photographer while seizing his camera. Gonzalo Zapata is a journalist from the newspaper Por Esto. in the Mexican state of Quintana Roo.
We
were covering a peaceful march of some young people, and suddenly UN security asked for a truck to come and to take the kids away, who weren't doing anything to deserve that. Then they grabbed the companion. They put him on the bus and started to take him away while beating him.
Jorge Silva was covering the protest working as a photographer for the Reuters news service. A UN official said he had assaulted a guard, but other journalists quickly rushed to his defense.
We tried to stop them from taking him, since they were beating him inside the vehicle. And then the UN security attacked us, and were later joined by the Mexican authorities.
And so you tried to stop the bus from leaving?
Yes, porque es un compañero, se lo estaban llevando, era un compañero.
Yes, because he is a colleague who was being taken away for simply doing his work as press. They put up cardboard to block the window and continued to beat him on the bus.
Observers from civil society groups said the chaos of the final day of climate talks was emblematic of a conference that shut out voices from the grassroots. Kumi Naidu is International Executive Director of Greenpeace.
Civil society is shut out. I've met government delegates who said, oh, I would love to come for that side meeting. I would have loved to have come for the climate-induced migration conversation, which is a really big question on climate refugees. But it takes me 45 minutes to get from here to there and back. So there's been no real enabling environment created for civil society to be able, to have access to delegates and to convey our concerns and our views and perspectives.
The UN is silencing the global south.
Están silenciando también todos los países del sur entero.
For Democracy Now!, I'm John Hamiton in Cancún, Mexico.
The UN is silencing indigenous peoples.
Las Naciones Unidas están silenciando los